Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to today's live lesson. We're going to wait just a few minutes as everyone joins in, like we always do. If you can hear me and see me all right, give me a thumbs up in the chat. And as we wait for everyone to get joined in, if you'll let me know where you're watching from today, we'll give some shout outs. Perfect. You can see me and hear me. Good news. All right. Where is everybody watching from today? I see Sri Lanka, Iraq, South Africa, Indonesia, and Brazil. Hi, Japan and Hungary and Pakistan. Awesome. We'll just wait 2 minutes or so while everyone joins in. Hi, Ukraine, Bangladesh. Hi, Myanmar. Awesome. And India. Hello, Brazil. So while we're waiting, I'll go ahead and give you a quick summary of today's topic. Today, we're going to be covering vocabulary about the environment. So we have 21 vocabulary words we're going to cover, so stick with me. I know that's a lot of vocabulary words. And along with the vocabulary words that we're going to be learning today, we're also going to have some discussion questions. So be prepared to type your answers in the chat. We'll wait just 1 more minute. Keep telling me where you're watching from. For those of you who haven't been in a live lesson with me, my name is Molly. I am a tutor on Cambly, and I'm from the United States, from the state of Tennessee. Keep giving some more shout outs. Hi, Turkey. How's the weather here in Tennessee? It is cooling down. It's about to be fall. Actually, I think it's officially fall now. So luckily, the summer heat is gone. We had a really, really hot summer. And this week, actually, the weather changed. So it feels really nice outside. I'm ready for the fall weather. It's my favorite. Hello, Guatemala and Canada. All right. I think we're going to go ahead and jump in and get started. Hi, Thailand. Again, my name is Molly. I'm going to be giving your live lesson today, and today's topic is going to be vocabulary about the environment. Okay, that's what we're going to be covering today. Going to move a little fast, so if you have any questions, we'll stop every few words, and I'll try to answer any questions that you type in the chat. I'll put up the vocabulary words behind me so that you can see them. And don't forget, if you have to leave early or if you join in late, this session is going to be recorded, so you can go back to Cambly's YouTube channel and watch it again as many times as you need to. All right, is everybody ready to get started? So today we're going to talk about what the environment is, some problems in the environment, and also ways that we can help the environment. We're going to cover 21, I believe it's 21 vocabulary words all about the environment. So we're going to start with the most important word, environment. What is the environment? So when we talk about environment, or we say the word environment, it has a few different meanings, but today, for us, we're going to be talking about the natural world. So this is the land, the water, the air, the plants, and the animals. Good. Someone said the surroundings all around us. So this is what we're going to be talking about today, the environment. Someone who specializes in the environment, so someone who studies the environment and wants to protect the environment and also educate others about the environment, we would call an environmentalist. An environmentalist is a person who studies the environment, wants to protect it, and also wants to educate others about how to protect it. I'm going to tape these words behind me. Hopefully you can see them, and hopefully they stay up here. Let's try it out. All right, so that is the environment. The next word we're going to talk about is biodiversity. Biodiversity. So when we use the word just diversity, this means there's many things, right? A variety. When we put bio in front of this word, biodiversity, we have many different kinds of plants and animals in an environment. So there's lots of different kinds of plants and environment with plants and animals within an environment. This is biodiversity. All of the different kinds of plants and animals in our environment. So if you look at the rainforest has a lot of different biodiversity. Probably in your country as well, wherever you are, you have lots of biodiversity. And it's different depending on what part of the world you're in. Good. Someone said flora and fauna. Very good. So we use the word flora and fauna for plants and animals. Flora referring to the plant species, and fauna referring to the animal species. Very good. All right. Our next word is climate. So the climate is just when we talk about the general weather conditions found in a particular place. So our climate is the weather. Every place has a different type of climate, right? If you live in Saudi Arabia, the climate is very different compared to if here in Tennessee. We have different climates. Good. Someone says the Amazon has a lot of biodiversity, the Amazon rainforest. I'm hoping these will stay up here for you. And the reason I included climate is because we're also going to talk about climate change. So climate is the weather in a particular place. When we talk about climate change, these are global changes in temperatures in the climate. It's changes in the wind patterns, changes in how much rain a place gets, and this is mainly caused by the burning of fossil fuels. If you don't know what fossil fuels are, hold on, we're going to go over that as well. That's another vocabulary word. Right, so you may have heard the term global warming as well. So global warming specifically refers to the warming of the earth, right? The temperatures are getting hotter. Climate change refers to more than just the warming of the climate. Okay, so this is also, it gets colder. It talks about the changes in rain. So we're gonna go over some words when it comes to less rain, when places aren't getting as much rain, the wind patterns. So global warming is just talking about Earth getting hotter, but climate change refers to more than just that. It's all of the changes within the climate, not just the warming up of the climate. Very good. And climate change is mainly caused by the burning of fossil fuels. So that's our next word. So what are fossil fuels? Maybe you've learned the word fossil in science class, if you study that in English. So fossil fuels are just natural fuels that are made from decomposing plants and animals. Decomposing are plants and animals that have died. They've been dead for a while and the bodies start to break down, okay? So when this happens, there's these natural fuels that are made from these dead plants or animals, and these natural fuels can be used for energy. They're burned for energy. Very good. Who knows some examples of fossil fuels? Does anyone have any examples of fossil fuels? So burning these is not good for the environment, but we rely on this for energy. And this causes a lot of the change in the climate. Very good. See lots of good answers. Yes, contains carbon content. Very good. Now, aside from fossil fuels, we also have natural resources. So, natural resources, exactly how it sounds. These are materials that are found in nature that are useful, or necessary for life. So, some examples of natural resources would be minerals, wood from trees, water. These are all natural resources. So, they're found in nature already. It's not something man made, it's something man uses to their benefit. So, natural resources are things like water, wood, and minerals. Air, very good. Aside from natural resources, we also have what's called non-renewable resources. Non-renewable resources. So these are resources that don't replenish soon after they're used. A lot of times they can't be replaced, or they're going to run out. So non-renewable, it's a source that's not replenishing itself soon after it's used. Oftentimes we can just completely run out of it. So I have some examples down here of non-renewable resources. Coal, oil, gold, nuclear energy, all of these are non-renewable. So they don't continuously replenish themselves after they're being used. And of course, the opposite of this is renewable resources. So who can give me some examples of renewable resources? What are some examples of renewable resources? I'll let you type some examples in the chat. Good. Solar power, wind power, very good. So the power part, we're actually going to cover that vocabulary word, renewable energy. So a renewable resource would be something like the sun, the wind, right? And we do use those for renewable energy, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the lesson. That is one of the words today. Very good. Oh, good example. So we use dams for electricity. So there's dams that hold back water. That's a great example. Good. I see some good examples here in the chat. Very good. So we're going to kind of shift here. So we've gone over some basic terms about the environment, and we're going to shift a little bit and talk about some things that aren't good for the environment that maybe cause climate change. So before I give you some of these words, can you think of some things that might cause the climate to change, or some things that are not good for the environment? I'll let you type some answers in the chat before we start covering a few of these negative words. What are some things that are not good for the environment, or some things that may cause climate change? I'll let you, good. Cutting down trees. We are going to cover that in one of our words. Very good. The burning of coal, the burning of fossil fuels. Yeah. Oh, someone got one of the vocab words in the chat. Very good. Actually, I see two of them already. So pollution is not good for the environment. So the cutting down trees, which we call deforestation, which we're going to cover, is not good for the environment. Smoke in the air, very good. Destroying plastics. Yeah, destroying plastics. Plastic is not good for the environment, and we're going to cover that in just a bit as well. Greenhouse gases, very good. Cows. Great answer. A lot of people don't know about this. Cows are not good for the environment. Do you know why cows aren't good for the environment? If you know that answer, I'll let you type it in the chat. Why aren't cows good for the environment? Water pollution, there's a lot of pollution in the water. So a lot of the plastics and the trash that we use gets sent to the water. Methane gas, yeah. Microplastic, very good. The burning of fossil fuels. Yeah, the excess of cars. So everyone driving their cars. So cars put out what's called exhaust fumes. Exhaust fumes. This is what a car puts out when it's running. And this is not good for the environment. The exhaust fumes go up into the air. It contaminates our air. Cows produce a lot of gas. Exactly, yeah. Traffic jams, right, are not good. Someone said we have to reduce manufacturing. Good, you're one step ahead. We're going to talk about some things we can do to protect the environment in just a little bit. All right, good. So now let's get into a couple of words. So many of you already said pollution. So what is pollution? It's not good for the environment, right? Pollution is the contamination of the environment, especially by industrial waste, industrial and chemicals. So industrial waste, if you see big factories that are producing they're using lots of plastic and metal and putting bad things into the air. So this is causing pollution in our air, right? A lot of industrial factories are causing pollution. And yeah, humans are the ones in charge of this, right? So it's us. We pollute the earth, unfortunately. Chemicals, things like pesticides. Does anyone know what a pesticide is? So pesticides are used everywhere. This is a chemical that people put out to either kill plants that they don't want in their gardens or on their farms or in their yards, and also to keep insects or bugs away. Yeah, it's mostly used in farming. So chemicals like pesticides are really bad. They pollute the environment. So pollution is just a contamination of the environment. So many of the things that you mentioned that are polluting the environment. And then to contaminate, so this definition, the contamination of the environment. So to contaminate something is when the air or the water is contaminated. It means that there's harmful bacteria or toxins that cause disease or death. So many of the chemicals that are put into the water or the air, they're carrying bad bacteria or toxins that aren't good for the plants and the animals or even us to breathe in. Oftentimes it carries disease and it can cause death. So contaminate. If I put this down here, are you able to see it? Let's try it. Put that down just a little bit. Hopefully you can still see that. I read some of your, factories, fertilizer, human activity. Pollution is the result of a lot of industries nowadays. You are right. Many things are done by humans, which is affecting nature, like the cutting down of trees, working in factories. Industries discharge waste ingredients during manufacturing. Right, exactly. So when they're making all of these things, it's producing waste that's not good for the environment. Sophia said, in my opinion, the worst is manufacturing multiple unnecessary products. We are manufacturing more products than we need that are not necessary. Good. Carbon monoxide is most dangerous, and it's released into our air. The next word I saw a few of you mention in the chat. So deforestation, or the cutting down of trees or clearing of trees. So this is happening. This is a big problem right now in our environment, especially in the rainforest. So deforestation is when we go in and we clear out or trim or thin out forest. Humans specifically are the ones cutting down these trees, of course, to use the wood. or the land for something. So deforestation. So you see the word forest in here. Deforestation is when we're clearing out these forests. It's a big problem right now. Actually there was something here. So there's a fact I pulled about deforestation. So more than half of the world's tropical forests have been destroyed since the 1960s. I'll read that again, which is very crazy. More than half of the world's tropical forests have been destroyed since the 1960s, right? Because of deforestation. So when we talked about climate change and the difference between climate change and global warming, climate change refers to more than just the warming of the climate. Climate change talks about the change in rainfall and wind patterns and temperatures, etc. And so when we talk about droughts, climate change, we often see droughts. So a drought is the continuous absence of rain causing the land or rivers to dry up, right? So there are droughts happening due to the changing of the climate. And this just means there's no rain or not as much rain as there should be. And it causes lands and rivers to dry up. Yeah, like deserts, exactly. Usually in deserts, there are droughts, right? Deserts are very dry. So droughts can be caused by the changing in climates. And I actually meant to ask you this. Who can think of what are some consequences of the climate changing? So one was a drought, right? A drought is a consequence of the climate changing. What are some other consequences of climate change? Good, the melting of ice. So the glaciers, what we call glaciers or icebergs, as the earth is heating up, the glaciers and icebergs start melting. And I see the word flood, and that can cause flooding, right? Floods, heat waves, very good, landslides, droughts, as we mentioned. What else? Fires, yes. A lot of forest fires because there are droughts, there's not any rain, the climate is so dry. We've seen that here in the US, and it causes fires that get just really big and out of control. People have to leave their homes to stay safe. Yeah, so heat waves. I actually covered that in another lesson where I talked about weather vocabulary. So heat wave is when it gets really, really hot for a certain period of time, hotter than it should be. We had a heat wave this summer here in Tennessee, and it was miserable. Artificial acidic rain, acid rain. I don't have that included in our vocabulary today, but that's a good one. Thin layer of the ozone, right? So the ozone layer is what is in our atmosphere, right? So the thin layer of the ozone is affected. Illnesses can become more common. Exactly, very good. So we talked about pollution and contamination, right? So there's contamination in our air and in our water, and this can cause disease and illnesses. Very good. How do you think, so we kind of talked about how it affects the climate itself and also maybe how it affects us, but the changes in the climate also affect the flora and fauna, right? The biodiversity, all of the plants and animals. So many times when a climate changes too much or an environment changes too much, a species can become endangered. Endangered. So an endangered species just means that this species is in danger of becoming extinct, which is our next word, extinct, or disappearing in the near future. So there's a long list right now in the world of endangered species, and it just means that these species, there's less of them, and they are in danger of becoming extinct or disappearing sometime in the future. Does anyone know of any endangered species or endangered animals? Are there any that you know of in your country right now? You can type some examples in the chat. I know there's a lot. I actually looked at a list of them before this lesson, and I didn't realize how many endangered species there really are. Good. If you know of any, you can type them in the chat, specifically in your country as well, where you're living right now. Right, certain types of the elephant, the panda, the cheetah, the white panda, the panther, giraffes. I have just a couple of examples. Let's see, which ones did I put on here? So I think I had some examples. Okay, so some endangered here that I put. So tigers, orangutans, which are it's a species of monkey. They're really big. Usually you see them in zoos. The blue whale, red pandas, different types of parrots, and different types of penguins as well are endangered. Blue whale, jaguars, white fox, rhinos. Yeah, there were a few different types of rhinos that I saw that were endangered. Very good. The beluga whale also. The blue whale, the beluga whale. Yeah. Someone said rhinos because of their horns. So humans are killing rhinos for their horns, right? And that's causing them to die out too quickly. In the Philippines, the crocodile, the bees, bluefish. There's lots of different kinds of fish that are endangered. Tortoises, yeah, I actually have that on my list. So the Galapagos tortoise, which I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the Galapagos Islands, which are owned by Ecuador, but the Galapagos tortoise, those are endangered. They're really, really, really big. Yeah, very good. So then the next word, so endangered means that the species is still here, but it is in danger of becoming extinct. When a species is already extinct, it means that it's no longer existing. It's lost forever. There are no more of them on planet Earth. So when something is extinct, it no longer exists. So do you know of any species that are extinct? If you can think of any, type them in the chat. I do have some examples of those as well. Dinosaurs are extinct. Yeah, very good. I knew that would be, I actually didn't put that example in. It's a good example though. Right, so of course dinosaurs are extinct. The mammoth, yeah, the woolly mammoth, I did have that example. The woolly mammoth is extinct, so it does not exist anymore. The white tiger and the, what's the other one? White rhino. I don't know if you meant those are endangered or extinct. I know there's some chats coming in a little late. The dodo, I do have that as an example. There's a bird called the dodo bird, D-O-D-O, and those are extinct. It was a big bird that could not fly, but there's no more of them. Dinosaurs, yeah. What else did I have on here? I had the woolly mammoth, the dodo, the black rhino is extinct. Tasmanian tiger. The Tasmanian tiger, also known as the Tasmanian cat or Tasmanian lion. It has a few different names. There are no more of those. They are extinct. And the saber-toothed tiger is extinct. Those were the examples that I had. And of course, dinosaurs. Very good. All right. So we kind of got on the negative side of things, right? The bad things for the environment and the consequences of climate change. Now we're going to shift gears again and end on a positive note for the end of the lesson and talk about some ways that we can help the environment, right? Because as humans, we have the responsibility to help the environment as much as we can. So the next word that I have on our list is conservation, not to be confused with the word conversation, right? Conservation. So conservation is the protection and preservation of the natural environment and resources. So we have the environmentalist, right, and the person who focuses on the environment. They work typically in the conservation of the environment. So how can they protect it, and how can they educate others to protect the environment? So the conservation, the protection and preservation of the natural environment and the resources. Right? So we want to do everything we can to protect the environment, to conserve it. So conservation is the protection and preservation. Preservation itself is keeping it in its natural state, not destroying it, but keeping it as it is. That's the preservation. So really, we want to preserve the Amazon rainforest. We want it to stay as it is. We also mentioned this earlier, but we'll go over the word again. So when we talked about earlier the non-renewable resources, we also talked about renewable resources and renewable energy. So renewable energy, it can be used without running out. It will never run out, okay? So non-renewable resources can run out. They don't replenish themselves as we use them. But when we use renewable energy, this can be used without running out. Good. So I know some of you gave some examples earlier in the lessons. So some of those examples would be solar energy. So the energy we use from the sun, wind energy. I'm not sure if you've ever been to a place and seen the big windmills that are spinning with the wind and using the energy that way. Hydro energy is used from water. Tidal energy, I don't know a lot about tidal energy, but it uses the tides. I have to do a bit of research into that. I'm not sure if any of you know much about tidal energy. But these are some examples of renewable energy, right? So the sun, we're never going to run out of the sun. We're never going to run out of wind. So these are all renewable energy. The difference between tidal and hydro, I don't know a lot of information about tidal. So I'm assuming tidal is actually using the tides from the ocean. I could be wrong about that. And hydro is just using water in general, not necessarily the tides, right? I need to do a bit of research on that. If you have a better answer than me, please feel free to type that in the chat. Right, they're both related to water. Both of them are related to water. Yeah, the ocean tides. Good. All right. The next word, I'm not sure if many of you have heard of this or practiced this in your home, but the next word is compost. Compost. So when you compost, it means you're putting organic waste into, I put a container in parentheses because people compost in different ways, but you're taking this organic waste and you're putting it into something and it breaks down into healthy soil or healthy dirt that we can use for our gardens if you plant a garden. This is a great way to get rid of waste instead of throwing things into the trash can. So when we talk about organic waste, I gave some examples down here. So if you're cooking, your vegetable peels, what else did I put down here? Uneaten food, it depends. There's some restrictions of things that you can compost. I know there's some things you can't compost. Leaves that fall from trees, you can compost. If you cut your grass in your yard, you can use the grass that you cut and compost. Eggshells, I believe you can use, when you make coffee, you can use the leftover coffee beans, ground coffee. So good, organic fertilizer, right? So compost. Does anyone compost? Anyone who's in the class right now, if you compost, let me know in the chat about your experience. And so some people here, you can buy these compost bins. They're these big bins, and you start putting everything into this bin to break down. And I think you also want worms to be a part of this process as well, because they help break down this material. It's really cool. I used to compost. I don't compost because I moved to a new house this year and I haven't started back again, but I need to compost again. I need to get back into it. And the soil, you could use the soil to plant if you have a garden. It's really good for that. You can still see this. See if anybody composts. I know there's some things you can't put in your compost too that's bad for it. Yeah, and so even when I used to compost because I have chickens, you can use chicken poop, and it's really good for the soil. All right, our next word is sustainability. Sustainability. What is sustainability? So this is the noun of it, right? The act of it. So sustainability is supporting long-term ecological balance by not depleting natural resources or being harmful to the environment. So when we talk about sustainability, we want to live a more sustainable life, right? We want to do things that aren't going to harm the environment. We want a long-term plan to protect the environment. We want ecological balance, right? We don't want to deplete natural resources. So we talked about our natural resources. They're the resources found in nature, like wood and minerals and water. And so we do not want those to be gone forever. We don't want to use all of them. So this is the idea of sustainability, not using all of our natural resources until they're gone. We want an ecological balance. We want to protect the environment from anything that's harmful. So to live a sustainable life is to support all of this whole idea. Someone said I'm tall. It's not the top of the wall. The wall is a little bit taller. I'm not very tall. I probably look taller on camera than I am. Yeah, so someone said making compost from vegetables and then you mix it with soil. I've seen some other compost bins too where they have worms that you put in with it. Some people had it in their houses too, which I thought, I'm not sure how I feel about having worms in my house. I'd rather do it outside. Okay, we just have 4 more words, but 3 of them are going to go together. So our next word is ban. A ban on something. So ban can be a noun, or to ban something can also be a verb. So this is officially or legally prohibit or forbid something. So I used an example down here, single-use plastic ban. So I'm not sure if any of you this morning or this afternoon are watching from India, but I know India, there was big news in India this year in July that India banned single-use plastic, which is great. So a lot of times when we're talking about protecting the environment and how we can live more sustainably, we talk about single-use plastic ban. So who knows what single-use plastic is? When I say single-use plastic, what does this mean? It's kind of self-explanatory. But a lot of, I guess, environmentalists want to push for this single-use plastic ban. I see someone has my next 3 words already in the chat, what we're going to end with. Very good. So single-use plastic, it just means plastic that we use one time and then throw away. So what are some examples of that? I see some people, the plastic bags, exactly. That's one of the biggest ones. So when we go to the supermarket or the grocery store, and we buy everything that we need, and they put it into these plastic bags, and then we bring those plastic bags home, unload everything that we bought, and throw them away. So we use those plastic bags just for a couple of hours, and we threw them away. When I go to the supermarket, I take my own reusable bags. because here in the US, single-use plastic is not banned. There's not a single-use plastic ban. What are some other examples of single-use plastic? So we have shopping bags that you get at the supermarket. What else? Plastic bottles, good. One day, so cups that we just use for a day. Plastic cups, bottles, plastic bottles. We buy a water bottle at the store, drink the water out of it, and throw away the plastic bottle. We just used it one time and threw it away. Good. Someone said these can be recycled. So we're going to end on that. We're going to get there. We're going to talk about the 3 R's, which I see someone typed earlier. Also, if you eat at a restaurant or maybe drive through a restaurant and they give you plastic forks and knives, we use that one time to eat with and then we throw it away. Straws. Yeah, straws that we use in our drinks, that's a big one. Straws are single-use plastic. I don't know if it's a thing in your country where you live, but a lot of people here like to buy the metal straws now and use those instead of getting straws at a restaurant, the plastic straws. And it's different in every country, right? So like I said earlier, I know in the country in India that they just did the single-use plastic ban, but it makes it easier maybe for people not to use this plastic in that country, but in other countries that ban does not exist. So people are still using the plastic bags and the plastic straws and the plastic water bottles and the plastic plates. Yeah. And coffee cups. If you drive through and get your Starbucks cup in the morning and throw it away. Good. Okay. So we're going to go through 3 more vocabulary words that kind of go together. So some of you have already mentioned it in the chat. And then I'm going to ask you a question and give you a chance to share your answer in the chat. And then we're going to end today's lesson. If you have any questions right now, go ahead and type them in the chat for me. That way, when I'm checking it, I can see those questions. And so our last 3 words we call the 3 R's. The 3 R's, like the letter R. So the 3 R's are reduce, reuse, and recycle. So when we talk about sustainability, protecting the environment, if you want to live more sustainably, a lot of people try to follow the 3 R's. And it's best to do them in order as you can. So first, we want to try and reduce. So to use less plastic, right? As I mentioned earlier, when I go to the supermarket, I take my own bags so that I'm not using the plastic bags. I also have metal straws that I don't use all of the time, but I try to use them. So the first step in this is just reducing how much we're using less. The next R is to reuse. So to use something again. If I have a plastic box, maybe that my food came in, I like to wash that out and reuse it to store food or to put something else in. So reusing things, not just using them and throwing them away, but finding another purpose to use them again. So first we want to reduce how much we use. And then of course, it's hard not to use things like plastic nowadays because everything comes in plastic. But when we do use plastic, maybe we can find a way to reuse it. And the last one is to recycle, which someone mentioned, in some countries you recycle and it's different for every country. I know in some countries, maybe they're more strict about recycling or maybe you're required to recycle. Unfortunately, where I live, we're not required to recycle. So a lot of people just throw everything into the trash because nobody is making them recycle. And so they don't do it. I do recycle. So all of this paper that I use today for this live lesson will be recycled. So the last thing is to recycle, to make something new from materials that have already been used before, right? So I recycle paper, cardboard, plastic, and glass. And there's not, here where I live in my city, there's not a place to take the recycle. So I drive to another city and take my recycle. And I know in some countries, I'm not sure how if and you feel free to tell me in the chat how it is in your country, but in some countries you have to sort everything in your home. You're not allowed to just throw everything into one bag. I think you can get fined if you do that in some countries, but it's not like that here in Tennessee. But I do make myself recycle. So the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. I'm going to check the chat for any questions that you have. I'll try to answer questions you have. Let me know how it is in your country, if you are required to recycle, what the laws or the rules are. And then I have one last question that we'll end with. So my question for you is, and feel free to type as much as you want in the chat. My question is, what are you doing to protect the environment? Or how are you living a more sustainable life in your individual life? Or maybe after this lesson, you think, I'm not doing a lot. Maybe I can recycle more. Maybe what are some things that you would like to do more of to help protect the environment? So as I check the chat for questions, you can type your answers. So what are some things that you do to protect the environment in your own life? Or maybe what are some things that you would like to do to protect the environment, right? And maybe you can use some of the words that we went over today. So conservation, pollution, you don't want to pollute, right? Renewable energy. Let me check for any questions while you all are typing your answers in the chat. Someone uses the compost. You make the compost and use it in the garden. That's good. Yeah, that was my plan when I used to compost, was to use it in my garden, and then I moved and I just haven't started composting again. But I need to. But someone said the plastic straws are going to disappear, right? So in many places, they're replacing the plastic straw with a carton straw, right? I don't know if you've used one of these. I have used one of these. It's very different than the plastic straw. In Sri Lanka, you use a cup once and you throw it away. Yeah, I know it's different in every country. Tony asked, are electric vehicles good for the environment? They're better for the environment than the normal vehicles that we drive, because they're using, it's a debatable topic that we don't have to get into, but they're using electricity instead of putting out. Earlier, we talked about cars. When we're driving, our cars are putting out the exhaust fumes into the air, which pollute the air, right? They're bad for the air itself, for the environment. So electric cars don't put these exhaust fumes out into the air. But there are other, I guess, cons. There are pros and cons to the electric car. Maybe we can do a whole other lesson on that. Or that would be a great topic if you are a Cambly student. That'd be a great topic to discuss with your Cambly tutor. We're replacing plastic bags with paper bags. Yeah. Let's see. Someone said, I guess if you have the conscience of doing your best about the environment, it'll help in some way. Exactly, right? So on our own, we're not going to, save the world. But yeah, if you're conscious enough to make small changes in your own life, then it will definitely help in some way. Yeah, protecting, I noticed someone, planting trees. So protecting, getting involved in organizations that help protect the forests. So we talked about deforestation, which is a big problem. So finding places you can get involved to help conserve or preserve the forest, and also planting trees. We can plant trees. That's a great way. I'm trying to keep up with all of your answers. Using a bicycle, good. So if you live in a city and it's easy for you to ride a bike to the store or to work, that's a great way to not get in your car and drive, but instead to ride your bike. I wish I could do that where I live. I don't live in a big city, so I couldn't ride my bike to the store, unfortunately. I have to drive my car. And we don't have public transportation in my city either. But in some places, it's a lot easier to be able to ride your bike instead of drive your car. Great answer. All right, let's read some of your answers of what you're doing or what you will do. So someone said, to protect the environment, I always pick up the trash to clean my environment. And to be more efficient with using your electricity. Very good. So not leaving our lights on all day, right? Turning our lights off, being efficient with the electricity. And the same with water. If you're brushing your teeth, not keeping your water on, but turning it off. Decreasing traffic jams. That's a good answer. I'm not sure what the solution to that is. In some countries, there's always traffic jams. Reduce using plastics. Very good. Trying to throw the trash away correctly. So taking your own bags to the supermarket. Very good. And consuming less plastic. And it is hard in some places. I notice when I go to the supermarket here, even our vegetables and fruits, they all come in plastic already. I was joking one day because I went and there was a potato just wrapped in plastic. And I don't know, like, why is it necessary to wrap a single potato in plastic? So sometimes it's hard to avoid buying plastic. Using cotton bags instead of plastic bags. Yeah, that's a very easy thing to implement. Definitely. Reducing consumerism. Good. Okay, great answers. We are going to end here. I know we're just about out of time. Many of you, it's already night, so you're probably ready to go to bed. But I hope that you learned a lot of useful vocabulary about the environment today, some consequences of climate change, things that you can help the environment, things you can do to help the environment. Don't forget, if you joined this class late, you can go back and watch it again on Cambly's YouTube channel. If you are new to Cambly or you haven't checked it out, I have a special code for you today. So that code is going to be Go Live. So if you want to try out Cambly and see what it's like, there are native English speakers from all around the world 24/7 that you can connect with to practice your English, help build your confidence, and learn anything that you want. So you can use that code Go Live, and this is going to get you up to 36% off. All right. If you are a Cambly student, best of luck with your classes this week and next week. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's lesson, and I will see you next time. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye, everybody.